Hey everybody, I'm Leroy Montgomery, and this is day 2 of the Post-Traumatic Stress Challenge. For those of you who don't know what that challenge is, it's where you 25 days of doing 25 push-ups each day. And I guess each day you're supposed to challenge somebody else to this. I haven't gotten around to actually doing that portion. If you're on my Facebook and you're looking at me do these videos, I tell you what, I'll issue the challenge out to anybody. If you got anything to say on post-traumatic stress disorder or post-traumatic stress, um, put together a video, throw some words of encouragement out there, maybe a story, knock out some push-ups, and ask the next person. All right, so I talked a little bit about myself in the last video. Um, when we think of post-traumatic stress, normally in today's society, when we talk about it mainly from the portions or from the positions of like people in the military and law enforcement. In other words, people in combat situations or violent situations where weapons are involved, and that's usually what we relate it to. So anytime you hear somebody talk about PTSD, it's like, oh, you in the military, your service, or what branch were you in, and what did you go through? Did you kill anybody? Yeah, I fucking hate that question. No, I didn't kill anybody. But that's usually what we think of it as. Um, what it boils down to is that post traumatic stress can happen in any situation. You don't have to necessarily be in combat arms or in any type of line of work just for that to occur. It can happen in your everyday life. And with that being said, I think this one I'll say is a situation my father encountered when he was younger. So I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. My dad was born and raised in Chicago. I don't know at what point, maybe back in the 80s, that's when he migrated down here to Cincinnati. And to be honest, if you're from Cincinnati, I don't, or if you're from Chicago, I don't know why you come down to Cincinnati, at least in that time period, but to each his own. So my dad will always tell the stories when we were kids, me and my brothers. He would always relate his life experiences or the things he went through. So my dad had my oldest brother when he was 15. My oldest brother is in his 40s. My dad is 57, I think. Maybe a little bit older, maybe a little younger. Dad, if you watch this video, forgive me for not knowing that. Sorry. But in case, my dad tell you like, I was 15 years old and I had my first kid, and I was in the streets of Chicago carrying a gun. He witnessed the murder, and then after that, sometime later, he joined the Navy and went on from there. So my dad always told us the story when we was a kid, and he would always use it if he was trying to teach us something or a lesson. He would always apply that in there. Anytime he's talking about something serious, he always brings up that background, or at least he did. I don't know if he still does it. And for years, I just took that like, all right, that's dad's like that's the stuff that he's been through. That's who he is. Okay, I get it. And my dad uh, would drink a lot, and as a kid, I didn't notice it. I didn't see anything bad with it at that time. Maybe it was right there in front of my face, and maybe I just didn't accept it or whatnot. But he's still my dad. My dad did. I would say my dad did the best that he could, and in that, especially in the '90s. I mean, you know, your parents aren't perfect. Let's go ahead and get that out there. But now your children sometimes. But they do the best they can, and you take what they teach you, and then you move on and try to do better. Maybe one day start your own family, or whichever way you go, and go on from there. So, in any case, at this point in time. This is back 2012. I had gotten out of the military. This might have been 2012. This might have been a little bit later, but I remember I was at my dad at his girlfriend's house talking to him, and I've been drinking a little bit or whatnot. And my dad always told that story about that 15 years old carrying a gun and witnessing the murder. So one day we kind of delved in. Dove into this a little bit, and my dad has always been that guy that he has a plan, no matter what. I don't care if he's in a relationship. I don't care if he's in another country. If something's not going the way he's working on it going and all that, he can pick up, move on, start fresh, and he continues on with his plan. That is who he is. But I remember, I don't know what we were talking about, but my dad has always preached about uh, taking care of the black community. He right now he does Cert 5 disaster preparedness. I think it might still be in Winton Terrace or in another area, but he talks a lot about disaster preparedness in the hood and what you can do. And he talks in terms of natural disasters, even divine intervention. And honestly, I don't know if it's divine intervention. I don't think you can really be prepared for that. But that's what he goes for. And my dad is Nation of Islam Muslim. He follows the teachings of Minister Louis Farrakhan. Uh, we're not gonna get too deep into that. If you got your views on Muslims, that's your business. That's my father. He's not walk. It's not like Iraq or any other damn place. I'll tell you that. But in any case, my dad got into listening to the teachers of Nation of Islam when he was, I think, when he was in his 20s, probably 23 or 24. He heard Minister Farrakhan giving a speech or talk on the radio about giving birth to a God. So with that thought process going on, my dad's my mom. That's how I come into the picture. So in any case, my dad was holding on to a lot of things and still going through his struggles and all that. So now you flash forward to the conversation that me and him are having. I always my dad's always been about taking care of the community and first aid and different things. And my dad was a corpsman when he was in the Navy. So, my family mainly has always, in some way, shape, or form, been involved in the medical field, whether it's a nurse, CNA, administrative, something to do with medicine. And the funny thing is that I work in the hospital now, and I ain't a nurse, but deal with patients and different things, talking about benefits, and then hell, a lot of that being in law enforcement, military, you're constantly going over CPR and lifesaver skills. So that being said, I always wonder why my dad clung on so hard to his beliefs with stuff, like why he was always pushing it, like why he was so worried about the hood, why he was always so worried about taking care of everybody else. And my dad was relating that story about, being 15 years old and witnessing the murder in Carrington Street. And for the first time, I think this is the first time I ever saw my dad show emotion off of this. Because, to be honest with you, it looked like he was having a flashback. We were in the kitchen and he was going, I don't, the conversation got deep, but I think he kind of, he was sitting there and, when he was recounting that, I think what it boiled down to is that my dad realized, or I was realizing that my dad had witnessed the murder, and him going through the things in life that he's went through, and him thinking the way he does, was in terms of you know being able to help a person if they're ever in that situation and something's happening to them, like for instance, from a CPR or medical standpoint, being able to stop the bleeding and providing aid and saving somebody's life. I think my dad has always carried the guilt of that he was there, but there was nothing he can do about it, that he couldn't change the situation, that he couldn't help the person. And that was the first time that I've ever seen my dad emotional over anything. And this dude can pretty much roll through anything. Like he's not one of those my dad with that Chicago mentality, he ain't playing. He was not playing around. My dad, I remember there was an incident that happened when I was a kid, where it was I was a kid and it was a teenager or maybe a young adult, but the dude had took something from me or whatnot, and my dad was getting ready for work and was coming down the stairs. So I told my dad what happened, and my dad, he straight up, he walks up to the dude, he's like, "Yo, you took something from my son? What?" And he slaps the dude right across the fucking head. And the dude was like, "Man, you can't be hitting me like that." I get my mom and dad. My dad looked and say, "Man, get your mom and dad." I kicked their ass too. You all right, son? All right, I'm on my way to work. And rolls off. My dad is thorough. That is probably where my temper comes from. Part of him anyway. But he's always had that mentality, and this is kind of where I get that attitude of probably not liking being told what to do or people being in control of me. My dad's always look, I'm gonna do what I want to do when I want to do it, and you ain't gonna tell me shit. So there you go. But that's him. But not to get too far off the topic. Um, when we're talking about post-traumatic stress, in this case, the coping mechanisms that we use for it, there's something in our lives. If you've had a traumatic experience, there's a situation that caused that you're holding on to, or it's something you felt like you could have did differently, or maybe it's just an experience that haunts you that you just feel like you can't get over. And a lot of times when we're dealing with stuff, we don't like to talk about it. It's like we like to keep that on the low. That's for me. Something traumatic is keeping it on the low. That's my moment of being vulnerable, and you don't need to know that. So I'm gonna keep pushing forward. I'm not gonna think about this, and I'm gonna move on. And I think that's what he was doing with that situation. Like that happened to my dad or whatnot, and he's just always carried that. And that really it get that situation gets deeper than that because my dad went through that, and then and also in 2012, my dad, um, my brothers, we went through that loss of one of my actual younger brothers. He was involved in a situation with somebody that didn't go too well, and that was a long time ago. I've healed from it, but yeah, when it was going on, I never stopped to think for a little bit because my dad was coping with one thing. At least I thought he was coping with one thing, but I don't think since 2012 we've ever sat down and talked about that. I never asked my dad like how he was feeling or what he was going through because it's like you already went through one traumatic experience when you were younger. Now here you are later on in life, and then this happens, and I'm dealing with it my way. My brothers, they were all everybody was heated. And not to digress too far off of this, but it kind of goes along the lines where we talk about black on black violence. When that happened, it was because my brothers lost through violence, and then everybody was on that kind of kick when that shit happened. When we got the news that they were out for payback, and me had just getting out the military at the time, I didn't get involved in the situation. Even though most people was like, something happened to my friend, something happened to my boy, my brother. I ride for him. I do what I got to do. I was going off of the information that my brothers was giving me at the time and what they were telling me. They knew who the person was that did it, but I didn't think it'd be a smart idea because I already had a temper about me and I was angry about a lot of shit. And to be honest with you, had I not stopped to really think about it, I'd have picked up a gun, rolled with him, found a dude, probably kill him, probably kill anybody in the vicinity that I could hurt. Because that would be my way of dealing with my anger, but I didn't. It's like, look, let the police handle it. I'm not sure 100%, and then I don't just listen to what other people tell me. Like you could tell me somebody's guilty of something or whatnot all day long, but I always got to gamble on a possibility of you being wrong or me being gullible and believing something I shouldn't believe and getting involved with it. So, they didn't kill anybody. They handled the situation their way or whatever. A year later, dude was arrested, went to jail, and then everybody moved on with their lives. But getting into this whole thing of coping mechanism. Now, my dad, he's a drinker. I don't know if that was just something he used to do when he was younger and he held on to it. He's gotten better over the years about that. My dad, when he's focused on the plan, what he'll do is he'll stay focused. He'll do what he's doing for a little while. Then he'll take like a hiatus for like maybe a month or two. Like he'll just get his beer in and Colt 45 drink of choice or Milwaukee's best. I don't know what it is about old school guys and them and malt liquor. That shit is nasty. I mean, it's an acquired taste, but whatever. But he'll go through his hiatus of that, and then he'll stop. He'll be back on his game again. He's always and him being a Muslim, he's always been strict about the stuff that he eats. My dad is a slim dude, takes care of himself. He don't lift weights or anything like that, but he eats a lot of salad, drinks a lot of water. So he trust me. If alcoholics have beer bellies, my dad doesn't. I don't know how, probably just the diet in, but he tries to maintain that discipline through the Nation of Islam, and he follows those teachings, and that works for him. And that's all I can say. But for anybody else who's dealing with a situation that you hold on to, one of the things we have to understand, or that I'm not telling you that you have to, but I'm suggesting, if you hold on to something in your heart that's really bothering you, even if you don't talk to anybody about it, even if you don't feel like you can open up about it, the worst thing you can do is find vices to cope with that. So vices can be alcohol, drugs, shit, sex. You can be jumping in relationships with people or just running around town fucking the pain away. I mean, silly as that sound, people do that. For me, there was a point that I didn't realize I was abusing alcohol like I was, but I don't know if I used it as a coping mechanism, but I did consume a lot. And, sometimes it was just my way of dealing with stuff. It wasn't one of those situations where, I get drunk and then I go crazy. It's just like, I don't feel like doing anything, so kill a whole damn six pack and chill out. But no, my main coping mechanism, even though I would drink sometimes, was it was exercise, working out, and being focused. This is something I definitely try to do. one of the things I can definitely take away from my dad is that he's a smart dude. Him and my other brother, they're smart guys. They're intelligent. My dad focuses on history and he knows a lot about computers. My dad will jump on there, fix a computer, work something out. He'll help with math homework. He used to help I found out from my aunt. He used to when I was a kid, my dad used to help my cousins out with their math homework and stuff like that. And my dad actually, now that I think about it, with him always having a plan, he did conflict resolution. He used to teach that class, and he used to do it over at I think it was Hughes High School back in the '90s. He'd go up there and give a class on that, and he would teach other classes. He teach people first aid and different things. My dad, he's a smart dude. He is, and when he's driven or he's about something, he'll stay on it. And then he has those moments where he just got to take a break, and he goes through that. But for the most part, he's doing okay. So what I would say to anybody is that when I talked in the last video about reconciling, for that situation with my dad with the thing, and I'm definitely gonna put this out there to him. So, Dad, if you're watching this video, understand something. But to anybody else that was in a similar situation where you witnessed something that you couldn't do anything about, or that you didn't know you could do anything about, and and to be honest with you, with that particular situation, we've all just recently seen that I forget what state it was in, but during the riots and the protests, the guy, I think his name was David Dorn, former police officer, retired. He was guarding a buddy's pawn shop, and then he was shot by somebody that was breaking into the place. And then the dude that was there to witness it, to show it to the whole world, had his phone out and was recording it. Now, in a situation like that, most of us who had that experience that know like what to do, it's like, provide first aid, try to help somebody. But you never stop to think. And this is the thing when I was saying about, right now when you get out of the military, you notice the world doesn't have discipline. A lot of people don't have education or training on stuff. So the average person doesn't know CPR. They don't know, they don't think in terms of, oh my God, I got to stop the bleeding. I got to get in, do this, do that, prop the person up, try to keep them conscious, dial 911, make sure it's so much. Not even chest compressions. It's like instead you're sitting there like, just hang on, man. You're sitting there with a camera, and what's fucked up about it is that you recording somebody take their last breath of air. And it takes me back to the incident that happened when I got stabbed. When the stuff happened, it drew a crowd. People were watching. My boy John jumped in there, and there was another friend that jumped in when the situation was over because he was walking up and saw that I was bleeding. I didn't realize I got cut. Didn't realize it wasn't a cut. He was a stab. But he rode up to me. I didn't realize he was yeah, I think he had paramedic training along those lines. But he was telling me to stay. He rode up to me like had somebody get a towel and stop. And then the other guy knew he's a veteran. He got in it, so it was kind of turned into a competition of who's gonna save my life, even though I didn't think I was dying. And as they doing this, holding the bleeding, telling me sit there. I'm mad as hell because I got this new damn car. I'm parked over here in the area that you're not supposed to be parked at a certain point in time. So I'm not up here in this moment. I'm not feeling the pain. I'm not thinking to myself like, oh man, I need to lay down, or God, I need help. I'm sitting up here thinking to myself like, damn. I gotta get somebody my keys to move my fucking vehicle. Then the ambulance on its way. That's gonna be $2,000 damn dollars. And then I gotta, oh man, hospital bill. What is going to happen? I'm so fucking pissed. And then this dude walked off, and I'm going in the hospital. So yeah, it was a shot to the ego that night. But I digress. What I'm saying is though, is that, and that's it. And going back to that David Dorn, I hope I got the name right because I talked about it in the post, but I haven't dedicated the name to memory. But I'm not going into the protests and all that stuff. But what I'm getting at is that if you're one of those people who's dealing with a traumatic moment, like witnessing something like that, that's what I'm gonna use for this video. Seeing a situation like that, and it's years later, sometime later, and you sit up there beating yourself up over it, don't. I'm gonna tell you that because bottom line is, no matter what, when a situation is done, it's done. You can't go back and change that. If somebody died, you can't bring them back to life. A situation whether it was somebody else's fault or even your fault, the best thing I can tell you is that, put it to you this way: if it's a situation where you didn't know what to do, The best thing I could tell you is there is probably nothing you could have done. There's a old school saying that when it's your time, it's your time. So to my dad, if you're watching this, like, don't hold on to that. It's a traumatic to witness something like that, especially when you're young. But and I told him this before, but you can't go back and change that situation. And to be real honest with you, there's nothing you can do about that. Too young to even know what to do in that situation. And on top of that, and this is for anybody, if you especially if you witness a murder, when you see something like that, you got to realize the person who that is happening to, it wasn't meant for you to save them. There's another person who shows up to actually take that person's life. If you walked away from that without them taking yours too, count yourself lucky. They was handling business. That was their time to go. There's nothing you can do. And even in situations where you felt like there was something you could have done, even if you didn't do it, I mean, once again, take it as a learning experience. When you go through a situation where you witness something terrible, that is not really your burden to bear. That's not your cross to bear. You got to realize things happen for a reason, and you can't hold on to it. Take it as a learning experience, and I keep saying that over and over again. But I mean, take when I say take it as a learning experience, what I'm saying is that this happened. I was in that situation. That's what it was. So when you're moving on in life, the best thing you can do is ask yourself, how do I be better prepared in a situation like that should it ever arise again? Whether it's that particular thing of witnessing the murder or if it's something else where somebody gets hurt or is injured, what can I do to better prepare myself? So when you're thinking about and when we're talking about post-traumatic stress, and witnessing those kind of situations, it's going to be there with you. It's an image that's probably never going to leave your mind. It'll be eventually you'll probably put it in the back of your mind, but it'll always be there. All you can do is dedicate yourself to being better. It's like, that's the thing about life, especially when you're young. The whole point of life is going through life experience. You go through these experiences that are supposed to shape you into the person that you're destined to be or to get to the destination that you're destined to get to. So as you go through these situations, and another thing, there's really no textbook on life, and I'm not going into this on religion and all that. Any religious text or whatever, we use them as guidelines, and they got different stories in there, and some of them actually have like freaking uh, rules that you're supposed to follow. Those are in books that were written by people who do not exist anymore. And I'm not clowning any religion. I'm not saying they don't work. I'm not saying hell, if you got faith, hell, keep your faith. I'm not telling you to give it up. I'm not telling you it's not real. The thing is that whether that might be a religious text is considered a book of how to live life and all that, in reality, what's on paper is different than what you're actually going through. In other words, situations for people in those stories, that might have been a lesson for them, but this is a whole different day and age, and people were not the same. So the best thing I can tell you is that when you're gaining these experiences, when you're going through that stuff, don't hold on to it. If you're holding on to it, hold on to it to make you a better person in any situation. And hell, since we're talking about that, I'm not gonna make this too long, but like especially with combat veterans, guys that actually seen action that lost buddies and stuff like that. I know a few who hold on to those situations, or they even think about their actions of things they did. Like for instance, somebody you kill somebody because they're trying to kill you, or one of your buddies gets lost in a situation you feel like you could have did more, or somebody ended up in your place for a spot you were supposed to be in, but you wasn't because you got tasked out, and then suddenly they life ended on that mission. And there's a shit ton of things, but the thing is that the only thing you can realize is that you did your best, and you did what you really did your best. It's like most of joining the military. Uh, we all join it for a reason. Not all of us, like some people join because they believe in red, white, and blue. It's all about the American flag, and my daddy died for this flag, and I'm gonna die for it too. That's what some people believe. Some people's like, man, you know what? I just want to get some college, so I'm going in. And other people, if you like me, hell, I'm too young to be a cop. I need the experience, and they're gonna pay for college. So let me go ahead and jump in there with that. Everybody's got a reason for why they did it. Point is that once you're in there and you take that oath, you go through your training, and then you deploy somewhere, and now you're in those situations where you have to use the skills and the training for the job that you're assigned to get a job done, and you witnessing the ugliness of war, the stuff that they don't talk about, that they don't tell you before you get in there, that most people even now don't really talk about. The thing is that you fighting for yourself and you fighting for your friends. And I have to say it that way because when you're deployed, America ain't there with you. Only the people who deploy with you are there, and only the people who don't like you are there. And then every other force from different services in different countries are there. You're in the theater operation. And in theater operation, shit happens. Murphy's Law is no matter what, expect the worst outcome. I mean, anything you can plan, you can put a plan on top of the plan. You can plan for the backup plan. You can have backup after backup. You can have plan after plan after plan, but shit will go wrong. And in those cases, when you're doing your job and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and you trying to make it through there, things are going to happen. You're going to see people get lost. And yeah, it plays in your mind. You're going to always see those images. The craziest thing I ever saw on deployment was when we were in Divonia, first platoon. So what happened is that we would experience indirect fire from time to time, and I think back in them days that was 2008. So I think because we stayed on the base, we had chews, which are basically connexes like apartments. They had a gym on base, cafeteria. We had it made. We roll out the gate, do a mission, come back, and we good. So in any case, one day we all sit in somebody's room and we was playing either Halo or one of the Call. I think it might have been Halo. Halo was the popular game back in the day. Call of Duty, I don't think really blew up till after that. So in any case, we playing and somebody in the game fires a rocket off, and we hear an explosion outside, but we think it's in the game. It's like, damn, there's some good graphics on this. What the fuck? You got the surround system? No, we taking indirect fire. So we dart out the room. People grab their vest, helmet, rifle, whatever you got right there. Grab your shit. Let's go. Jump up under the little barrier or whatnot. They got it's concrete. It's like a little concrete barriers that are kind of like an above ground cave with freaking sandbags on top of them. So in any case, the indirect fire goes on for a bit. It stops and it's over. And after a while, you get used to that happening. It's like you be on your first deployment, man. You so tight in the ass about shit. It's like, damn, man, hold up, what the fuck's going on? You panicking. A couple months into that, you like, whatever, man. It is what it is at this point. This fucking dog day afternoon or groundhog day. This ain't nothing new. What's up? Are they shooting at us? Do I got something to shoot back at? All right, then what the fuck I'm talking about? But in any case, the craziness past that shit or whatever is that we go to the DFAC later on to get lunch or whatever. Come to find out, one of the contractors ended up getting killed up there. Like I guess he was out fixing the power system for one of the areas. I don't know if it was the power system went out in our area, if it went out someplace else, but he was out there doing what he was contracted to do. Well, one of the indirect mortars or whatever it was came down and he got hit in the blast. And you saw the damage because there was a truck parked there. There was a big water tank a little further off, and you saw where the shrapnel cut through and shredded everything. So before we were allowed to go to the DFAC, I guess they had to get in there and move the body. Well, by the time we got up there to eat, they didn't completely hose off the concrete or the area where he got hit. So I saw some bits and pieces. And I was like, boy, I was glad that was the only thing I saw because I didn't want to see some about, and I'm not going to get too deep in this, but this actually ties to war and things that are traumatic. There's something about seeing a human body in any condition other than being alive that will haunt your mind. And I have to say that because, like I said, I didn't see it up close or actually see the body of this man, and I didn't want to. The only thing I saw growing up, and this is something I think that was mainly towards kids, teenagers in the early 2000s, they had this shit called Rotten.com. It's one of those websites. People would go there and you see grotesque stuff. And then there was a whole series of videos, that underground shit called Faces of Death. So I saw all that stuff when I was a kid, and it grossed me out then. Now I saw one video, and I'm not going to go deep into this. I'm going to try to cut this short. But I had borrowed a movie from uncle at the time. Not really uncle, it was my aunt's boyfriend, but it said Faces of Death on the box cover. It was a VHS tape, and it had a picture of a skull stepping out of a grave or whatever. And I don't even think he knew what it was. I thought it was a zombie movie because I love horror movies at the time. So I was like, oh shit, can I borrow this? Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. So I take it back to the house. I'm in my room, well, I'm about to watch a zombie movie. Next thing I know, I hear somebody talking with this deep ass Rob Zombie voice, and I'm seeing scenes and scenes of stuff of like people that were in accidents, people that got killed, and this is before I got up to looking at the stuff as a teenager and like visiting the websites. But I didn't know it at the time as a kid. I wasn't prepared for that. Let me tell you something. I watched that tape. I rewound it back, put it back in the box, dropped that shit out to him. I don't think I slept the entire week after watching that because it's these images in your mind of things that you're seeing, and it's not like you're seeing human beings in the worst possible way, shape, or form. And then with me thinking about being a cop and knowing what cops do or whatnot, when I became a teenager, I will go to those websites and see that. But in my mind, I got to see that kind of stuff because you got to prepare yourself for that. You're gonna be you might go to a call or a scene where the thing you seen in this damn movie or whatever, or whatever the shit is, you're gonna be looking at that and investigating how that person got into that condition and whatnot. So I knew as a kid that kind of traumatized me. So I can only imagine when you're in the combat zone and you actually either kill somebody or you walk through an area where they got hit and there's still bodies around, the number that plays on the mind. Uh, I mean, the only thing I can tell you is that those images will be in your mind. But for me, a lot of stuff that I think about that I've seen or whatever, the little that I've seen or whatever, as time has went on, I don't think much about it. And on top of that, especially when I was in the military as a MP, and then getting out and then going into the field I was in before, I just didn't really sweat that kind of stuff because it's like, you know what, this is what I'm learning. This is life. I said it before and I'll say it again. Life is not sunshine and rainbows. And when I say that, you got to understand something. People, the average person who is never in a traumatizing situation where things are always working out. They know their neighbors, they got friends, life is good. That those such things as rainy day people. People don't realize that at some point in time in this world, you're bound to see something. Don't ever think that whether you live in the ghetto, whether you live in the upcoming neighborhood or one of the nicer spots, whether you can afford to take a trip somewhere, don't ever think that this world won't reach out and touch your ass because it will. And most of us are seeing that right now. And that kind of plays when we talk about post traumatic stress. That situation I was talking about with David Dorn, you got to think. I've seen my stuff. Some of you have seen the things that you've seen. So imagine what residents in neighborhoods like, especially I'll take for prime example, Portland. That whole thing, I don't know. I think that was no, that was Seattle, where they had the chop zone or Chaz zone or whatnot. Think about that. If you live in that neighborhood or whatnot, and you getting up every damn day, you're going to work, mind your own damn business, trying to live your life and all that. No such thing as a rainy day. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a bunch of people you don't know freaking seize your damn neighborhood. I think that's what happened. I'm not gonna go too deep, but they block it off. They in a standoff with the damn police. And this shit looking like something out of a Charles Bronson Death Wish movie. Like, what the hell? Is this a gang? Like, who are you? And people, and then the stories coming out of there, people being extorted. That is traumatizing for people because you would never think something like that will ever happen here in the United States. You got to think. I know I was taught this, and I know most of you was taught this, but we the baddest nation on the planet. Can't nobody touch us. America is great. That's what we say. We believe we have the right to an opinion. It's all about us. Everybody else can shut up. And you playing by our rules. We don't play by yours. And that kind of shows when some of us individually travel to different countries. Most people don't respect customs and courtesies, and go around with that mentality of, hey, red, white, and blue, and who are you? You learn the hard way, and you definitely destined for a traumatic experience. But uh, going too far, not going too far, trying to bring this to an end or to a close. Everybody deals with some level of trauma. Let's be real. Whether it's physical, whether it's mental, post traumatic, you live in something, you remembering something. And the thing is that it scares a lot of people. You deal with a situation and all that, and it changes the way you think about life. Because before that happens, you never think you're gonna be in that situation. then you're in that situation, it changes your whole mindset up. Some people, I would tell anybody, and this is because I believe in practicing what you preach. I would tell anybody, if you can't, your best bet is to develop somewhat of a thicker skin about things. Realize this is the world that you live in. Don't hold on to it, but just know, just have it in the back of your mind that, you know what, after these situations, how can I be better prepared next time? Because you never know when next time is coming. And hell, the traumatic experience you might have had before, the next one could be worse. You might not even walk away from that one, and you don't want to go down that road. But yeah, that's the best I can tell you is that I know I said coping mechanisms, but this develop I would say develop a mentality of how to better cope with things. Don't turn to, if you're one of those where you got these thoughts in your mind or things that you've seen or experiences or whatever you're feeling on the inside about all that stuff, don't go down that road of, well, you know what, I need a way to, don't self medicate. And I guess it's easier said than done, but actually sometimes it's easier done. Don't go down that road because all you're doing when you're looking for these vices to satisfy yourself, or you're trying to make yourself feel better when you're self-medicating, is that you opening the door for more traumatic experiences or being the root cause of somebody else's traumatic experience. And let's face it, some of us have been there. Some of us, I can tell you right now, there's moments in my life I've been an asshole. And, thank God I wasn't a terrible one. And, I didn't go too far with things, but I've had some moments where I really could have fucked up or came close to it. But as far as drugs and other little vices, I would say the reason why I would definitely tell you not to do that because it's not even just necessarily of causing trauma for other people or traumatic experiences, even just self-medicating. Sometimes when people go down that road, you got to realize, especially if you got family or people that care about you, you create more of a situation that traumatizes them as well. Because they looking at you thinking everything's all right and find out you doing this, and then you turn into this different person because you're not coping well with what you're dealing with. So now you're going through this whole line of craziness to deal with it when it's only making it worse. Now they feeling the stress of that. You know, it's just this is only video too. I'll try to be a little bit better about this, but the best thing I can tell you is I'm trying not to repeat myself too much. Is don't stress about it. Don't sweat the things that you can't change or take back. That's what I'm gonna tell you. It's easier said than done to tell people that sometimes. I talked about the bad things of coping or whatever. Here, I'll tell you what. Here's some things. Everybody got into the military or is in life, and everybody's got something that they pushing towards. Some people just walking through life not thinking about anything, but for the most part, most people got a direction they're trying to go in. And on their way to going or trying to get to where we want to be at, yeah, we experience those bumps in the roads. That's what I'll call those traumatic moments and whatnot. You get into those situations, it's something that's on your mind, you hold on to it, you try to find ways to cope with it. No matter what the situation is that you go to, never forget where you're trying to go in life. So the thing, no matter what, everything that happens is experience. And one thing, once you've experienced the situation is done and over with. The term was it different seasons, different reasons. We all go through something for a reason. We deal with people for a reason. When the situation's over with, hey, the season's done and passed for that. So you've either learned a lesson from that or you haven't. But either way, you got to move on. So all that being said, I'm gonna do these 25 push-ups, but like I said, don't take the stuff to heart that you deal with. Don't take it personal. Some things you can't change. For people, especially people who like to do outdoor stuff, especially if you're in the military, if you're one of those people that likes to keep up with your training and all that, or you like to go hunting or anything like that, what I would do or what I would suggest is that, and this goes back to talking about hobbies, finding things that not even just finding things that make it easier for you to cope. Find things to do that you enjoy. Don't focus on those negative aspects of life that you've been through. Focus more on the positive. Focus more on what I can do better. How can I be better? How can I be happy? Because I tell you right now, if you constantly reliving those traumas, holding on to those, and it's not making you stronger, it's only making you worse. And you only make yourself more miserable. And when you make yourself more miserable, now we're talking about going down the road to dealing with those vices, suicidal thoughts possibly, or even thoughts of hurting other people. And that's the thing. Most of us develop anger issues from a lot of stuff. And no trauma is the same. I mean, I told you the worst stuff. Simple, more pettier shit. And I call it petty because it might have been traumatizing to me when I was younger, but it really wasn't that traumatizing, but I took it a certain way. So, like, for instance, getting as a kid, getting in fights, getting beat up and all that, running into situations, people constantly making fun of you. You know, people don't realize you hold on to that shit. And I know I do. And I'm learning to let go of a lot of stuff. But for me, those were moments that were traumatizing to me because I was the one dealing with it. Nobody else had to go through it. And, you know, people don't realize that when we talk about sticks and stones, man, first off, sticks and stones, let me tell you something about that. Words do hurt, and words will kill your ass nowadays. Don't these old sayings that we have and all that. Sometimes when you get older, you got to relook at that, re-examine it, and then look at how the world is. Now, when you was a kid, somebody say something bad to you and all that. Oh, like somebody talk like, "Oh, your mom's this and that." Does he know your mom? No. Move on from that. That's a set of words that's not gonna hurt you. Sticks and stones. Well, if the dude puts his hands on you, whoop his ass. That was the teaching when I was coming up. Now, as an adult living in the world that I'm living in now, yeah, it's not so much somebody talking about your mom or talking trash about you. It could be somebody running, making a complaint about you for something you didn't do. And enough people do that. Now, so you're in a situation where those words are about to bite you, and you got to figure out how to get out of that situation. And then, as far as sticks and stones, hell, back in the day, people used to fight all the time. Now you got better chance of getting stabbed and getting shot. People don't like fighting these days. They like that action, but they don't like dealing with it themselves. And that's gonna be in another video. But like I said, don't go down those roads. Anger is a thing, but you got to find ways to cope with that anger. One of the ways I've found to cope with mine is comedy, and not in terms of doing stand-up comedy. Some people have told me to try it. I haven't gotten to that, but what I'll do is, like for instance, when we're telling stories and stuff like that, or we're talking about situations, I'll take the situation of the story and just make it funnier and throw a little stuff in there, change my voice up, do little things that gets me laughing, gets other people laughing because you need laughter. It's been said that laughter is the best medicine. And when you're pissed off about something, but you can sit back and laugh about it, man, it makes you feel so much better. That's just one way. Another way, physical fitness, not just necessarily going to the gym and lifting weights and all that, but it's just making yourself physically better and you creating those goals to where you either how you want to feel, what you want to look like, or better yet, hell, working out and shit like that. You only get one life, and I know most people, especially military guys, are competitive about stuff, and you know. Now we live in that generation where even some of us, I guess, older guys, there's stuff we can do. You got tough mutters and all them things, and then especially if you got kids and all that, hell, you when I was talking about in the other video about being an inspiration to people, hell, the biggest inspiration to the people that you can be or that you can inspire is the people the closest to you in your life. So whether you are a parent, a friend, a brother, cousin, an acquaintance, even you know, you sometimes end up being an inspiration for those people or a motivator, I would say. So in other words, they'll see how you are and how you handle your business, and you'll be sitting there thinking to yourself, like, man, I got so much stuff I gotta do. I'm so stressed about this. I'm so stressed about that. But see, they don't see that. They look at you like, damn, this motherfucker like can handle some stuff. Like, I need to be more like him or her or whatnot. And you know, yeah, sometimes that's just one way to take it. But kind of rambling on right now, so I'm gonna knock out these 25 push-ups. And in the next video, I'll I'll talk about something else traumatic or different types of traumas that people deal with and try to give you some inspiration. So, with that being said, here we go. All right, here we go. 25 push-ups. Here we go. All right, folks. Until the next time.